My fellow Americans, we have lived through a period of uncertainty that tested not only our politics, but our patience, our trust, and our belief in what leadership is supposed to mean. We have seen moments of noise without clarity, power without responsibility, and rhetoric without direction. And in times like these, the question is never simply who speaks the loudest. The question is who is willing to step forward with steadiness, discipline, and respect for the institutions that hold this country together. Leadership is not a performance. It is a duty. When I say I am ready again, I am not speaking about ambition. I am speaking about obligation. The presidency is not a prize to be claimed. It is a responsibility to be carried, carefully, consistently, and with full awareness of the consequences every decision creates for millions of people. America does not need constant escalation. America needs steadiness. We have learned, sometimes the hard way, that chaos does not make us stronger. Silence in moments of accountability does not protect us. And governing through grievance does not build a future. What sustains a democracy is not outrage, but trust. Not dominance, but legitimacy. Not personal loyalty, but fidelity to the Constitution. I have spent my career working inside the system, as a prosecutor, as a senator, as vice president, and I know that institutions matter. They matter because they protect people who have no power. They matter because they ensure fairness when it is inconvenient. They matter because without them, no promise made by a leader can be trusted to last. In recent years, we have seen how fragile trust can become when leadership treats norms as obstacles rather than safeguards. When public office is used to divide instead of unite. When responsibility is avoided instead of embraced. That kind of leadership does not collapse a democracy overnight. It weakens it gradually by teaching people to expect less from those in power. I believe Americans deserve more than that. Readiness for the presidency is not measured by applause or headlines. It is measured by preparation, by judgment, by the ability to act decisively without inflaming fear, by the willingness to tell the truth even when it is uncomfortable, and by the discipline to accept limits because real strength comes from restraint. I am ready because I understand the weight of the office. I am ready because I respect the boundaries of power. And I am ready because this moment demands leadership that lowers the temperature instead of raising it. At a crossroads like this, leadership means restoring confidence. Confidence in elections, confidence in the rule of law, confidence that our government serves the public rather than itself. It means reaffirming that disagreement is not disloyalty, and that accountability is not an attack. These principles are not partisan. They are foundational. The presidency must be a stabilizing force. Markets respond to stability. Allies depend on it. Communities rely on it. When leadership is predictable, institutions can function. When institutions function, people can plan their lives with confidence. That is how democracies endure. I am stepping forward again because I believe deeply in this country's capacity to correct itself. We have done it before. Every generation has faced moments when the future felt uncertain, when norms were tested, when the easy path was to retreat into cynicism. Each time progress came not from despair, but from engagement. This is one of those moments. Leadership now requires more than commentary. It requires responsibility. It requires listening as much as speaking. And it requires remembering that the presidency is larger than any one individual. It belongs to the people, and it must be exercised in their service. I am ready again, not to divide, not to inflame, not to dominate, but to lead, to steady the country, to defend its institutions, and to ensure that the next chapter of American leadership is defined not by chaos, but by purpose. My fellow Americans, there is a simple truth that has guided my entire career in public service. No democracy survives without strong institutions, and no institution survives without respect for the rule of law. Personalities come and go, parties rise and fall, but what endures, what must endure, are the systems that protect our freedoms when power is tested. I want to be very clear about this moment in our history. This is not a debate about ideology. It is not a clash of personalities. It is a question of whether the rules apply to everyone or only to some. Institutions are not abstract concepts. They are the courts that defend individual rights. They are the election systems that give every citizen a voice. They are the inspectors, prosecutors, and public servants who uphold accountability when it is inconvenient or unpopular. These systems do not exist to serve leaders. Leaders exist to serve them. When institutions are respected, democracy works quietly and effectively. When they are undermined, democracy does not collapse all at once. It erodes. We have seen how dangerous it becomes when leaders frame accountability as persecution, when courts are treated as political tools, and when the press is dismissed rather than engaged. That approach does not strengthen a nation. It weakens public trust and teaches citizens to doubt the very systems designed to protect them. I believe leadership means reinforcing institutions, not attacking them. Throughout my career, as a prosecutor, as Attorney General, as a United States Senator, and as Vice President, I have worked within these systems because I understand their purpose. Accountability is not punishment. It is protection. Transparency is not weakness. It is legitimacy. The presidency carries extraordinary power. That power must be exercised with humility and restraint. The moment a leader believes themselves above the law, democracy enters dangerous territory. History shows us this again and again. Nations do not lose their freedom because the rules disappear. They lose it because leaders convince people the rules no longer matter. Readiness for the presidency is measured by respect for limits. A president does not decide which investigations are legitimate based on convenience. A president does not choose which laws apply based on loyalty. A president does not undermine independent institutions because they deliver uncomfortable truths. That is not strength, that is avoidance. America's stability depends on predictability. Businesses invest when rules are clear. Allies cooperate when commitments are reliable. Citizens participate when outcomes are trusted. When institutional integrity is questioned, uncertainty spreads. Markets hesitate. Partners pull back. Communities lose confidence. This is not theory. It is reality. And it is why restoring respect for institutions is not just a legal priority. It is an economic and national security necessity. I am ready again because I understand this responsibility. Being ready means accepting scrutiny. It means welcoming oversight. It means recognizing that leadership is accountable not only to voters, but to the Constitution itself. That accountability is not an obstacle to governance. It is the foundation of legitimacy. We must reject the idea that democracy is fragile or optional. It is resilient, but only if we defend it. That defense does not happen through slogans or threats. It happens through discipline, consistency, and respect for process. This is the standard I believe in. The presidency should calm institutions, not destabilize them. It should strengthen the law, not test its limits. It should reaffirm democratic norms, not redefine them for convenience. I am ready again because this moment requires leadership that understands the difference between power and authority. Power can be taken. Authority must be earned. Authority comes from trust, and trust comes from consistency and respect for the rule of law. America does not need leaders who demand loyalty to themselves. America needs leaders who demonstrate loyalty to the Constitution. That is the kind of leadership I am prepared to provide, steady, accountable, and rooted in the institutions that make this country strong. My fellow Americans, leadership is ultimately judged not by speeches or symbolism, but by whether people can live with dignity, whether families feel secure, whether hard work is rewarded with stability rather than anxiety, and whether opportunity feels real instead of distant. For too many Americans today, economic uncertainty has become a constant companion. People are working harder than ever, yet falling further behind. Rent is rising, groceries cost more, healthcare feels out of reach, childcare strains family budgets, and too many households are one emergency away from crisis. This is not the result of individual failure. It is the result of choices. Economic policy is not abstract. It shapes daily life. When wages stagnate and costs rise, trust in institutions erodes. When people feel the system is rigged, cynicism replaces engagement. And when opportunity narrows, democracy itself becomes vulnerable. I have always believed that a strong democracy depends on a strong middle class. That belief has guided my work as a senator and as vice president. Because when people feel secure, they participate. When they participate, institutions stay strong. And when institutions are strong, freedom endures. Economic dignity is not charity. It is fairness. It means wages that reflect the value of work. It means health care that does not force impossible choices. It means housing people can afford and education that opens doors rather than closes them with debt. These are not radical ideas. They are the foundation of a stable society. Leadership requires understanding that economic anxiety does not exist in isolation. It intersects with every other challenge we face. When people feel economically vulnerable, they are more susceptible to fear, division, and false promises. They are told that their struggles are caused by neighbors, immigrants, or political opponents instead of by systems that concentrate wealth and power. That kind of manipulation weakens democracy. I reject the idea that prosperity must be hoarded at the top in order to exist. History tells a different story. America grows strongest when growth is shared, when small businesses thrive, when workers have bargaining power, and when innovation is paired with responsibility. Economic readiness for the presidency means recognizing that stability is a form of leadership. Markets value predictability. Employers value consistency. Families value confidence that tomorrow will not be worse than today. Chaos is not a growth strategy. Division is not an economic plan. We need policies that reward work, protect consumers, and support entrepreneurship without sacrificing fairness. We need to invest in infrastructure, technology, and clean energy in ways that create jobs now and resilience for the future. And we need to ensure that economic progress does not come at the expense of basic rights or democratic accountability. I am ready again because I understand that economic leadership is inseparable from democratic leadership. When people believe the system works for them, they defend it. When they believe it is stacked against them, they disengage. That disengagement creates space for extremism, instability, and institutional decay. We have seen this pattern before, not only in our own history, but around the world. Economic injustice and democratic decline often rise together. The presidency must confront that reality honestly. This moment calls for leadership that does not pit communities against one another, but recognizes that our futures are connected, rural and urban, blue and red, workers and entrepreneurs. Our economy is strongest when it includes everyone. I am ready again because I believe economic policy should restore faith, not fuel resentment. It should expand opportunity, not narrow it. And it should treat dignity as a core value, not a talking point. America's promise has always been that effort matters, that work leads somewhere, that the next generation can do better than the last. That promise is not guaranteed. It must be renewed through choices that reflect our values. Economic leadership is not about domination or disruption for its own sake. It is about stewardship, stewardship of resources, stewardship of opportunity, and stewardship of trust. I am prepared to lead with that understanding because when economic security grows, democracy grows with it. And when people feel seen, respected, and supported, they choose participation over despair. That is how nations remain strong. My fellow Americans, the strength of this nation has never rested solely on our economy or our military. It has rested on our credibility, on the trust others place in our word, on the belief that when America speaks, it does so with consistency, responsibility, and respect for democratic values. The world is watching us. Every decision made in Washington sends signals far beyond our borders. Allies adjust their plans. Markets recalibrate. Democracies under pressure look to see whether the United States still stands for the principles it once championed without hesitation. Leadership on the global stage begins at home with stability, clarity, and unity. In recent years, that clarity has been tested. When American leadership appears unpredictable, when commitments feel conditional, and when democratic norms are questioned internally, the consequences are not abstract. They are immediate. Alliances weaken, diplomatic influence fades, and adversaries exploit uncertainty. True leadership does not rely on intimidation. It relies on credibility. As Vice President, I have represented the United States abroad. I have sat across the table from world leaders who want to know whether America will honor its commitments, whether our institutions are stable, and whether our democracy is resilient. Those conversations are not about personalities. They are about reliability. A president's words shape global reality. When America is steady, we strengthen alliances built on trust. We resolve conflicts through diplomacy. We lead coalitions instead of fracturing them. When America is divided and erratic, the space we vacate is filled by those who do not share our values. Readiness for the presidency means understanding that leadership abroad is inseparable from unity at home. A nation consumed by internal division cannot project confidence externally. A government that treats disagreement as disloyalty undermines its own legitimacy. Unity does not mean uniformity. It means recognizing that democracy is strengthened by debate, not weakened by it. I believe deeply in America's role as a democratic leader, not because we are perfect, but because we are committed to improvement. That commitment requires honesty about our challenges and resolve in addressing them. At home, unity begins with respect. Respect for differences. Respect for institutions. Respect for the idea that political opponents are not enemies. The presidency must set that tone. It must reject the politics of humiliation and embrace the politics of responsibility. It must remind Americans that disagreement is not a threat and that pluralism is not weakness. I am ready again because I understand the cost of division. Division slows progress. Division erodes trust. Division weakens democracy. Unity, by contrast, creates resilience. It allows us to respond to crises with coordination rather than chaos. It enables bipartisan solutions when challenges demand them. And it reassures the world